Seattle. They'd started Seattle in '93. They were a couple, married couple, and they were very family-orientated in how they treated their staff, and the whole ethos in their business was a family-orientated business. And then my mate and I, my mate from Standard 7 in school, we were 13, 14, and we met there, and then our two families sort of became friends, and we grew up knowing each other, and the two of us managed to secure the rights to Seattle Coffee Company in South Africa, Scott and Ali Svensson allowing us to bring it back here. So it's really been the Howie and the Parker family that have run the business over this period, and it's really been a relationship that's really worked, and the two families have really gelled. So it's been 21 years, and two families actually getting on is quite something.
It really is something, and I mean, Barry, your partner, he comes from a family that is in franchising and has had experience in restauranting. What about you?
So it's quite ironic because I studied a finance degree at Maritzburg University and got into the business and didn't even know what an income statement was before, but apparently I'd passed the exams, so actually before I started Seattle I'd only studied, and before I started working for Seattle I'd studied, and then my first job was actually in London at Seattle Coffee Company, so I actually had no CV before I started with Seattle. And then I've just got into Seattle and done the products, done the people side of the business. When it comes to the financial side, I'm basically useless. And so my partner is very good and very gifted on the financial, strategic side of the business. So that's worked out. So, yeah.
Let's talk about the product. Coffee.
Yes.
Really addictive. For most people it's a drug. But where do you source your coffee beans?
We've got direct relationships with farmers all over the world. So there's, I think, roughly 4 major coffee growing regions in the world of different continents. And on each of those continents we've set up, as I said, direct relationship with farmers, where we go to the farms and we see what circumstances they're living in, and we actually aid the farmers in knowing how they need to cultivate their coffee and that kind of thing at farm level to get the best quality. Then in exchange we pay them a far better price. And we're sort of paying our farmers 50 to 60% above the fair trade price, and the fair trade price is 25% above the commodity price. So, yeah, so from all over the world, Sumatra, the main areas that we source coffees for our signature blend, which you'll drink in most of our stores, is Guatemala, Sumatra, Costa Rica, and Rwanda. Those are the 4 main countries, but we bring in coffee from a lot of other countries as well, which we sell as single origins.
Has ethically sourced coffee always been an ethos in the business?
Yes.
Coffee.
Definitely. So we partnered with Union Hand Roasted in London, 2 guys, Jeremy Torres and Stephen Macatonia, and it was in the early 2000s where the coffee prices were pushed so low in the commodity market, and farmers, especially in South America, weren't even covering their production costs, were actually losing their farms and going into other forms of farming. So they started the whole not fair trade, but direct trade model, where they actually went to go and set up relationships with the farmers and developed a very win-win relationship, not capitalizing on the commodity price of coffee, but capitalizing on relationship and the benefits that can come from working closely in relationship with each other.
How many kilograms of coffee flow through your stores throughout South Africa?
So it's a lot. So it's about 20 tons of coffee a month. So between 20 and 25 tons of coffee a month. So what you said about people being addicted, that's confirmation. Yeah.
But 20 tons of coffee, and most of it is imported, that must mean that you pay quite a premium to get your coffee in South Africa. How do you manage the costs and still maintain profitability and expansion goals and all of that?
Yeah, so the grading of the coffee determines the price, and so we try and bring in sort of the top 1 to 2% of Arabica beans. And the price is very high for the green coffee that we're bringing. A lot of the other guys in the market are using middle grade green coffee, and yet charging prices where you would think that was very high grade coffee. So what we've really had to try to do is try to make the right margin on the cost of the grade of the coffee that we bring in, and we've had to be a little bit bold. If people are going to get a great product, then they've got to be prepared to pay for it, and hopefully that product can deliver enough value in the moment that justifies the price. So our strategy really has been to charge a price that reflects the quality, and for people to really, really want to come back for that cup and say, well, I'm more than prepared to pay that price for the experience that I get. So that's the line of thought that we've taken.
And I mean, it's gotten increased pressure as competition has increased in South Africa. And I remember when Starbucks decided they were going to launch, they did a country assessment and decided, no, South African coffee prices are actually too low when you compare them to the US and the UK, where you get $3-4 for a cup of coffee. Has that competition helped you?
Yeah, definitely. The competition's been great, and the main competition is actually coming from the smaller guys, the independents, especially down in Cape Town, and there's a lot of them are popping up in Johannesburg and all over the country, and these guys are really driving the quality side of coffee, and they've really set up an example for us to follow, you know? And the competition's great. I think we've tried to not focus on the competition and rather focus on what we love doing and pour all our efforts into that, and we found that that's the best way to be in the market with other competitors, and also not to view competitors as foes but as allies. You know, we try to break down those walls between us, and we've got good relationships with most of the guys. We're friends with a lot of the guys, so we try not to get into that antagonistic thing where we're trying to put each other out of business. And that good-natured approach, I really find it creates like a collaborative effect between us. I think that's a much better approach. But on the subject of people paying more for coffee overseas, what we're seeing, and especially in places like the city of Seattle and places like Australia and New Zealand, staff are getting paid a lot more. Obviously the rental in the spaces, that's very high as well, but the staff are getting paid a lot better. And so over here, the price of the coffee, I feel, is too low, and it's not enabling us to actually pay our staff what we should be paying our staff. So the market definitely needs to take a leap at some point if we're going to find some room to actually start paying our staff a livable wage. And that's something that we really want to do, you know, is start driving that agenda and start actually getting the message out to the public that we've all got to be prepared to pay more, to give more to the people who need it more than we do. So that's something that's definitely on our radar.
How do you introduce that without essentially killing your business?
To get higher productivity out of our staff. So we can say, so if you go to some of the, my partner and I went to Seattle, and you'll have two guys operating a very busy bar because the cost of their labor is so high. But these two guys, they've learned to operate that bar so well. They're so effective behind that bar, you know. So what we need to try to do over here is say, right, let's drop a staff member in our store, but let's really try to get our productivity up. Our guys are already very capable, they're very productive already. It's not to say that they aren't, but it's to try to find those kinds of savings and be clever here and there. So move staff around from one store to the next. If you have a quiet period in this store, move the staff member to a busy store during the day where those stores are close by. So it's to shave off that cost on our side, to increase the pot of cash in the region that you can then pass back onto the staff. And we've also got incentive schemes that it's taken a long time to get them in place. They're always very complex. But to set budgets, and whatever the staff exceed above those budgets is to try to get them a percentage of that. So you are actually, by taking those two approaches, you are actually safeguarding your bottom line. You're not just taking a big chunk of it away, you know?
What about your collaborations with Exclusive and Caltex and Engine? I mean, do those help your bottom line?
Yeah, very much. So Fresh Shop has been amazing, and that's brought a whole side of our business that has really just been amazing. It captures the whole convenience side of the market where people can pull in, they don't have to find parking in a shopping centre and pay. And it's a quick in and out. People don't anticipate that they're going to get a good quality product in that kind of environment, and we've tried to really prove that wrong and align expectations with the fact that you are actually going to get a brilliant product in that environment. And it's really, really helped us find our way much deeper into the everyday lives of people, as they're on the run. So that's been a revelation to us. Exclusive books has really been amazing for us as well. It's a great coffee environment, and coffee and books have always gone very well together.